What's going on, Newborn Nation? It's your boy, Newbornkilik here, welcoming you to another awesome Zelda Theory. While I was doing some research on Kakariko Village for the last theory, I managed to unearth some very interesting ideas about the potential fate of its inhabitants. Today, we will be talking about the Well of Three features in Kakariko Village, and how this very well was responsible for the death of almost every person in Kakariko Village. But wait a minute. In the events of Twilight Princess, we can clearly see that Kakariko Village is doing just fine. And you would be right, Kakariko Village in Twilight Princess is doing just fine. But what if I told you that wasn't the Kakariko Village from Ocarina of Time, but instead a new Kakariko Village? Some of you may already know this, but I would like to introduce you to the theory that the hidden village in Twilight Princess is actually Kakariko Village from Ocarina of Time. There are two pieces of evidence to support this theory. First, there is actually a sign near the entrance of the hidden village that reads, "Welcome to Old Kakariko." Granted, the spelling is a little bit different when translated to English, still, the evidence is pretty clear on this one. Even if this isn't our Kakariko, which seems somewhat unlikely, this is a Kakariko village. The second piece of evidence is what we hear from Impaz, the only resident of the hidden village, who says, "My name is Impaz," or Impaz. I'm not entirely sure exactly how you say that. "My name is Impaz. I am the last resident of this poor village. My name comes from the Great One who built this village so long ago. This village was once the secret home of a proud tribe who served the royal family, but it fell into decline and became infested with dangerous beasts. It's become an awful place." While there is a bit of a connection to make, it's not impossible to believe that Impa from Ocarina of Time would be considered the founder of Kakariko Village, as she is the one that opened it up to the individuals outside of the Sheikah race. While it does make more sense that the village titled Kakariko Village in Twilight Princess would be the same Kakariko Village from Ocarina of Time due to its proximity to Death Mountain and a graveyard, there is one thing that may help our theory hold its ground. And for that, it's time to bust out the map. If you look at any map of Twilight Princess, near the hidden village, you will notice something seemingly out of place. That right there is a volcano shaft, probably leading straight to Death Mountain. Granted, this volcano shaft is a bit out of the way. This helps us to remember that while Death Mountain might seem to be missing from the hidden village, it's actually pretty close by. Remember that in Ocarina of Time, all of these long winding paths were often shortened with loading zones. So, if we scale back the long winding paths, this shaft becomes much closer to the hidden village. A few other small things that seem somewhat interesting are that if you rotate the map a bit and assume, due to simpler shape, that the upper Lenaru is the section of Hyrule Field that we are exploring in Ocarina of Time, you can see that a few of these places line up, such as Lake Hylia, as it is to the southwest. And would you look at that? The hidden village is actually very near where Kakariko Village is in Ocarina of Time. So what? Is this all just coincidence? I mean, probably, actually, if we're being totally honest. I mean, we had to rotate a map to get this conclusion. But still, it's just an interesting thing to think about. Okay, we get it. The hidden village and Kakariko Village might be the same place, just 1 year into the future. So what happened to all of its residents? And well, it wouldn't be a Newbornkilik theory if things didn't get incredibly dark, right? First things first, we need to take a look at the state of Kakariko Village during the events of Ocarina of Time. And let's just address the elephant in the room. We all know that there are some really messed up things in the Well of Three Features, which, if you don't know, is actually the name of the well in Kakariko Village. Dark, narrow, and scary. The Well of Three Features. Well written, Nintendo. Very clever. Now let's address the even larger elephant in the room, and that's that the people of Kakariko Village actually drink the water from this same dark, narrow, scary well on a daily basis. I mean, it's not too out of the question to think that a well right in the middle of a village would be a common water source. Even though, as we see in the events of Ocarina of Time, there is a lot of death, decay, and in some places straight up toxic liquid in this well. So, is that safe? Well, not surprisingly, no. Yeah, that's not safe at all. Now, most of the problems with this would be filtered out with a purification system of some sort. However, we never see any form of water purification system in Kakariko Village. This means that just the germs and contaminants alone would keep the citizens of Kakariko Village in a near constant state of sickness at best. And in some cases, water with too many nitrates, which who knows what kind of germs and stuff are down there, can even cause what is known as blue baby syndrome. Basically, your child will be stillborn. No babies means eventually no Kakariko Village. Come to think of it, maybe that's what happened to the Sheikah race. Never know. But that is a theory for another day. So all of that's pretty dark, huh? Well, buckle up, because let's think about the psychological effects of finding out you have been drinking dead people for years. Depending on the origins of those bodies, maybe even your own family. And not to mention any kind of disease that any of those thousands of corpses had could easily be contracted by drinking this water. Remember how I said a constant state of sickness at best? Well, let's just say a retired village at worst. But there's one thing that's always bothered me about the Well of Three Features. Where did all of these bodies come from? And why would the bodies down here be so upset as to reanimate themselves as re-dead and these horrific spirits? Well, for that, I'd like to point you toward my last theory about the potential sinister uses of the Shadow Temple. Would recommend you go check that out. But if you just want a refresher course, one of the topics we talked about in that video is the idea that the Shadow Temple may have been used as a sort of torture and execution chamber for prisoners of war and the criminals of Hyrule. Given the similarities of the bottom of the well and the Shadow Temple, which even go as far as to use the same music, it is pretty obvious that these two areas are related to one another somehow. And to that end, I bring you this. I believe that the bottom of the well and the Shadow Temple were either at one time connected, or that the corpses of the dead became so many that in an attempt to dispose of the bodies, they accidentally broke through to the bottom of the well. Either that, or they would purposely dispose of the bodies in the well to keep the public unaware, completely disregarding the health of the water supply of Kakariko Village in the process. Bodies are sent into the well after filling up the Shadow Temple, poisoning the residents of Kakariko Village, sacrificing a village of the poor to make sure that the secrets stay secret. Eventually the villagers would die off, unable to reproduce or maybe even live long enough to reproduce, eventually turning the village into the place we know as the Hidden Village, blocked off from the rest of Hyrule. Another tidbit I remember reading, and I can't find it right now, so take it with a grain of salt. But I remember reading somewhere that Impas was actually told by the royal family to stay there and keep a hold of the ancient skybook. If this were true, it would basically be the royal family telling her to stay there and die, to finish off the rest of Kakariko Village. And with her death, the secret of the well and the Shadow Temple would finally be put to rest. But you might think the royal family is above all that, okay? I want to leave you with this picture though. That's the royal family's mark in both places, the Shadow Temple and the bottom of the well. They knew all about this place. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. It helps me out an awful lot. I would like to give my weekly shout out to my patrons, George Kasner III and Mark Comer. Thanks a bunch, and if you'd like to join them in supporting me to help make theories and other videos for all of you, I'll leave a link to my Patreon page, or you can click it on screen, hopefully now. If you're interested in more Zelda content, be sure to check out my other theories, or you could check out my playthrough of the Wind Waker Chaos Edition. Anyway, I'm Newbornkilik, and I will see you in the next one. I'm out.